Okay, so now we're going to talk about personalization in CommonSpot. Now, the way we're going to provide this in the video training here is we're going to first talk about why you would want to do personalization. The next segment after this will be more in-depth on doing personalization using the scheduling element and the container element. And then the final segment in the personalization video training series will be taking a look at how you set up rules and groups for um, setting up personalization. Okay, so why would you want to personalize content on your website? Well, it can be done for a number of reasons. One would be to provide a richer experience for your site visitors. If you have certain visitors that you know are going to be more interested in some content than maybe perhaps some other content on your website, then you can use personalization to provide them the type of content that they're going to be most interested in. If you happen to be in a business where you're trying to convert somebody from a site visitor into a customer, for example, and you're able to personalize their experience on your website, your odds of being able to convert them into a customer sometimes can increase dramatically by being able to provide that type of personal experience for that person. So there's any number of reasons why you might want to do personalization. But in terms of, if you're a marketer and, you've got some goals that you're trying to achieve, personalization is just another one of those tools in your toolbox that you can use to try and achieve your goals. Okay, so there's really two types of personalization. There's explicit and then there's implicit. Explicit means that we actually know something about the user that's coming to the site. Maybe they've come to the site and they've authenticated, and once they authenticate, we know something about them. Now, one thing you need to understand is when you authenticate in CommonSpot does not necessarily mean that you're going into the dashboard, you're going to be a content contributor. You can use CommonSpot's authentication just to basically uh, uh, create a session for a user and know something about them, but not allow them to use any of the back-end CommonSpot tools. Okay, so for example, if you have a sub-site on your site, and maybe there's a subscription service that you provide, and you charge people to have access to that sub-site, then you can authenticate them through CommonSpot, and then through the built-in integrated security, once they've authenticated, you can grant them access to use or visit content in that subsite. Well, you can do the same thing with personalization. If you have the means of getting them to complete a user ID and password in a form field somewhere, you can authenticate them in a CommonSpot, and then you can do explicit personalization for them. The other way that you can do personalization is implicit, where you've got an anonymous user that comes to the website. You really don't know anything about that user, but based on their actions, the things that they look at, things that they click on, things that they search on, etc., you can start to understand some things about that particular site visitor. And then based on those things that you're building this understanding of, then you can start to do personalization for that particular site visitor. Okay, so again, you can use CommonSpot to deliver either based on explicit or implicit. If it's implicit, you're going to be basing that personalization on some rules that you'll be defining. And again, we're going to take a look at the rules in the third installment here of the personalization video training. But here's some examples of how you can gather some information. So, somebody has purchased a particular membership or subscription. You can do personalization based on those types of things that you know about the person. If there's some kind of a behavior, things that they click on, pages that they visit, things that they search on, etc., you can personalize based on that. Or historical action. So, if a cookie's been set and the person comes back 3 days later and visits the site, based on the fact that there are cookies there and the historical information about this person, you can do personalization based on that as well. You can also do personalization based on how they arrived at the site. Did they click on a link in a Google search, for example, or was there a banner ad campaign running somewhere and they clicked on a banner ad and arrived at your site? There's also personalization that can be done using basically geolocation data. Where in the world does this particular person live? You know, if you know somebody's visiting from France, for example, you could have some personalized content that you've pre-established that maybe is, you know, written in the French language, and you could display that to that person. So there's a number of ways that you can set up personalization within CommonSpot. Okay, so then the next thing to understand then is that when you're creating personalized content for site visitors, the site visitors are placed into basically groups, and those groups, they can be placed in those groups either programmatically. For example, in the explicit personalization, if somebody's authenticated, then programmatically or through, you know, code that's running on the site or in CommonSpot, these site visitors can be placed into a particular group, and then based on that group, then you can personalize for them. Or they can be based in a group based on these implicit actions, and those implicit actions again are going to be based off of some content rules that you as a site administrator or your site administrator at your organization has predefined, and they basically have set up the criteria by which implicit visitors will get dropped into various but maybe it'd be better stated that they will actually match certain content rules. And then based on those rules, they will receive personalization then. Okay, so then how is the personalized content actually delivered? Well, we've got a couple of elements in CommonSpot. One of the elements is called a schedule element. The other element is called a container element. And both of those elements have personalization built into them. Okay, so we're going to end this video segment here. The next video segment, we're actually going to dive into the schedule element, the container element in more detail, and see how that personalization actually works.